What's up, guys? We are back with the latest in NECA Toys Turtles, talking cartoon stuff, of course. We are taking a look at the next 2-pack in the line, so we have got Ace Duct and Mutagen Man up today. Of course, these guys went up for pre-order on the NECA store, I don't know, however many months ago, like 7 months ago, I think. It's been a little while. But they're finally starting to pump them all out, and of course these guys are going to be Target exclusive when it comes to finding them in any kind of retail store. Being a 2-pack, of course, we get them in the very familiar boxes we've been seeing for a while now, so figures there in the big window. We've got some new cartoon-style artwork of each character in their respective corner. You've got product shots for each character on their respective spine of the box, and then the back of the package has some cross-sell for some recent and upcoming stuff. Big product shots for these two, as well as a little bit of a bio back there. So yeah, let's do it. Let's pull them out and take a look. And here we go, out of the package, our Ace Duct. So we're going to start with him first because, well, why not? We're going to start with him first. So we've got a pretty normal figure here. Like, there's nothing too crazy about this guy outside of the fact that, of course, well, he has wings. And then, of course, the fact that this character, as far as Turtles goes, is kind of a weird one because he's not really in the show. Like, he's in the show, but he's not in the show. He's in a movie within the show. So he's definitely an interesting character. Of course, he plays a much larger role in Turtles, with the toys and the comics and stuff like that. So let's see what he can do, see how he moves around. I'm going to take the hat off because it's a separate piece and I just don't want to send it flying when I move this head around. So we've got a head that can look up pretty decently. Not too much, but it's okay. He looks down really, really good, though. The neck is articulated also, so it does aid in a lot of this movement. Really solid tilt. Full rotation, of course. Arms go out at the shoulders about this far. They will rotate, but you've got to watch the wings. Of course, they get in the way. So it's not a really big deal, but it's something to think about. We've got double jointed elbows. These are those sort of weird NECA elbows. These kind, the ones that looked absolutely atrocious on the movie Casey Jones. They look better here because it's not flesh, but it's still, it's still kind of a weird joint. I'm still not the biggest fan of it. It does also afford rotation as well. We've got hinges at the wrist, and then you've got rotation as well. This is a vertical hinge over here, and then this one is a lateral hinge. We've got a torso that has like a diaphragm cut underneath of this rubber overlay. So he's of course got a jacket on, so it makes him look like he's like a single piece. But if you get up in there, you can see there's like a little bit of a waist piece here, and then there is a cut that allows him to twist. And then you've got tilt, and you've got shimmy back and forth. It's not the greatest because, of course, well, he kind of wants to return to neutral because of the jacket, but it does work pretty nice when it comes to just, leaning him forward slightly. You need him to do a walking pose or anything like that. Keeping with the upper body, you do have wings on him, of course, so they hinge and then they rotate, so you can get him to go flat or you can get him to go, sticking out like that. And then, of course, you can have them bend backwards or upwards, things like that. If you want to get that vintage toy look, you can kind of just have them doing pretty much this at all times. Legs go out about this far. These are, I think these are Vernon's legs, if I remember correctly. And then they've got that new ball socket joint there. You do kick forward. He's got a diaper thing going on, so it does kind of get in the way. They kick backwards really good, though. And then you can twist at the socket that's in the thigh. So you do have some thigh twist. It's not a thigh cut, but it does move pretty decently. Then we've got our double jointed knees. They go back pretty far. And then down at those ankles, you've got rocker, and we've got hinges as well. So, pretty normal stuff, really. There's nothing too crazy about how this guy's constructed, outside of the fact that he is very humanoid in his approach, very much like Vernon as far as the figure goes, which I'm assuming is a lot of the base, or at least as far as the legs go. And then the overall construction is very similar. The only real difference here is that he's not a human, he's a duck, and he has wings, but otherwise he does move pretty nicely. Aesthetically, though, he is basically what you expect to get out of this line when it comes to an Ace Duct figure. So he's got a jacket, he's got some pants, and he has a lot of duck-like features. That's really what it comes down to, but it does work pretty nicely here. The big standout for me is, of course, like the wings and the jacket, because those are really unique. Obviously, he has a unique head sculpt, But the jacket is a really cool piece just based on the idea of what he's supposed to represent as far as, the Turtles lore and things like that. You've got like the bomber jacket look with the bomb on the back, and you've got like all the feathers for his, confirmed kills down here at the bottom. The wings look really nice. The sculpt on them is really well done. So all of these wings are textured, and then of course they have like the piping around them to make them look cell shaded and give it that just sort of animated vibe. So they do look really nice as far as color, sizing, sculpt, again, really nice because there is a ton of detail all over that. You've got the feathers that poke out of the jacket here, so kind of like some down feathers that are coming out, and then just the jacket itself does look really nice. It of course has the the whack down the middle kind of thing where he has darker on the back, lighter on the front, and the paint for the most part on this guy is pretty well done. I don't have too many issues on him to speak of. The browns are really rich and dark and very clean and crisp at the same time. The pants look really good. His little webbed feet look really nice. Good paint applications. Not a whole lot to speak of as far as things that are like jumping out and bothering me on this figure. His belt is a separate piece, which I'm not the biggest fan of because of how it sits. Like it wants to sort of fall down, and then you can see some of the separation on the waist down here at times. I kind of wish it was more always like this rather than sort of hanging down, but it also, I don't know, it also kind of looks cool like that too, so maybe it's not that much, not that big of a deal. But otherwise, the sculpt is really nice. The paint is really nice, and of course he is painted from head to little web toe down there. And then of course, speaking of the head, we do have our very duck-like head sculpt here. So you've got that big bill with the very classic Turtles like exposed teeth on either side. Those big white and black eyes with the piping around them, the really, really bright like canary yellow paint for the feathers, and then sort of orangey paint for the bill. Does look really nice. The hat, like I mentioned, is a separate piece, but he kind of always has it, so keep it on there. And it does look really nice too. It's also very cartoony, very basic in its design, but it does work well. It works nicely in conjunction with the jacket, with the belt. He's even got the egg grenade holsters down there too, so it kind of all brings him together. It ties the look from head to toe, where he's got those browns running throughout the body, and then of course all of that ducky look and feel comes through really nicely in the exposed areas for the feathers, for the head, for the wings, and then of course for those feet. Now, as far as Mutagen Man goes, he is unique, right? To say the least. He is very unique, and he always kind of has been. In the show, he's a weird thing. He's a weird design. He's a weird character. In the vintage line, he is a really unique toy in many respects, and it comes through very similarly here because, he's a ball of goop with a brain and a spinal cord, basically. So he is very, very different, but at the same time, there's a lot of stuff on him that is very normal too. He's got arms, he's got legs, but that stuff is also, at the same time, kind of weird in its own right. So we've got arms. We'll start with the arms and the legs, and we'll go back to all of this. Arms go out, they rotate. You can kind of, pull them apart by doing this, so watch out. We've got bicep swivel, normal stuff there. You've got double jointed elbows, but they're basically like singles because he's got these bands, so they kind of get in the way over here. Not too big a deal. It really doesn't matter. And then you've got your hinges and rotation at the wrist. The legs on this guy are kind of limited. They go out, but only about that far. They kick forward pretty good though, and they do kick backwards. You do have a twist there. It's the ball socket system, so normal stuff. We've got double jointed knees, and I've had some issues with my knees. They have been pretty tight, but they do want to go back, a good bit. So you've got those. This foot in particular is kind of weird. So it's got these two braces on there that actually kind of work in conjunction with the foot. So they will move in and out as you kind of move this around. So be careful with it. And then you've also got rocker. Like you can see this pin going up slightly and down as I rock this leg around. So you've got that, which is fine. It's not a big deal. Just watch it. You don't want to pull one of those pins out. And then you've got this huge monster boot over here for a foot with also pretty good hinge and surprisingly good rocker. Like surprisingly good rocker there. So the legs are, they're pretty normal, but at the same time, just because of the asymmetrical nature, these pins, this brace thing, they are a little bit different. Now, the rest of the figure is, of course, the inner workings of Mutagen Man, Seymour guts, and he's got all these little bits and bobs. So, like, this whole thing comes off. Like, it just pops out. Like, it's just sort of, it's loosely pegged into these holes here to kind of keep it in place, and then it will just come apart. The shell here will also come out. And I had some trouble getting it apart the first time. Once I got it out, I kind of was able to put it back correctly. And then you've got a head in here that is articulated. So you can actually move this around. The way it works is that this piece is just a peg. So it sticks in there. And then there's a peg hole on the bottom of the head, and then there's a peg hole on the back of the head. So you got one that goes in here and then one that goes in there, and you can sort of move them around a little bit. The mouth is also somewhat articulated, so you can kind of open it a little bit. Chomp those jaws there. This is like a worried head, so you can sort of, finagle it a bit, and to make it so that he is sort of looking off to the side. And then, you could close them back up, basically. So you'd do one of those numbers and then put it back on, and he's suddenly looking off to the side. And then, of course, wrap him all back up, and you're good to go. It is kind of cumbersome, but it does work pretty well. You just have to kind of figure it out. And I did have to I had to heat my head up, the brain. I had to heat that up to get the spinal cord out of it, because I was very concerned I was going to rip it right in two, because it did not want to budge. But once I heated it up, it was fine. So it's actually a pretty ingenious way to make this work, because he does have a swapping head feature here. So there's another head sculpt with a different expression, but you can also move him around just to change his sight line up a little bit, to make it be a little bit more dynamic. Otherwise, he's always going to be looking straight ahead, which does kind of limit your posability. So he is surprisingly well articulated. Really, he is still a little limited because of all of this business, but honestly, not too bad. Now, all that said, my main focus for this particular figure is going to be his looks, the aesthetics, because, well, it's a goofy figure. It's a goofy design, and it works really well as just sort of a focal point on the shelf. I do tend to prefer the vintage toy look for Mutagen Man over the cartoon look, but I'm no less interested in this. Like, it's still really weird because of the fact that he does have something very different in the fact that he gets a face. He gets an actual face with an expressive and emotive backing to it, really. The brain face, whatever we're going to go with here. But I think he looks really good. I do like the fact that he does have the capability of, showing some sort of emotion here. Because, look, he looks really super worried with this face, brain face sculpt, whatever's happening here. And I really like that. I like the less detailed nature on this figure compared to the vintage toy. It's not as crazy all over the body or anything like that. He's still covered in these little pock marks and stuff. He's got whatever this thing's supposed to be on his arm here. You've got the whole apparatus on him, which does look really nice. It adds a lot of bulk to the figure, although he's not very big. And we'll do size comparisons. He's not really supposed to be, but he's not very big. So you've got all this purple back here with the green tanks, the tubing that runs all around, just the way that the apparatus, the harness works on him, I think looks really good. It's very clean in terms of its presentation, just because of the fact that we know we can take it off. But it looks like it's on there. When it's on, and it's not super tight either. Like it's sort of just sitting there, but it works really, really well. I do have a couple little areas of concern on my figure. Like, I'm pretty sure someone's fingerprint is like on here with some goop right around there. And my legs got a little stuck around the diaper area. So when I pulled them apart, they left like a purple line around the hip area here, which I'm not too jazzed about. It's not the end of the world. It's kind of one of those concerns when you have a fully painted figure, something's going to stick and then you're going to have some paint rub there. But otherwise, I do think he looks really nice. The guts all in there look fantastic. I am going to probably have some issues with a fingerprint magnet when it comes to the sort of shell on him. But otherwise, I think the presentation here is really nice. It looks very simple, but at the same time, this guy is kind of oozing, no pun intended, with a lot of detail. I mean, there's tons of line work, all this extra little goops and little splotches all over him. It's all sculpted and painted. The tube, the capsule, whatever you want to call it, does look really good. The spinal cord, the face, the expression on this head sculpt, it does look tremendous. Like, I really like that. I'm kind of hung up on it because he does look so worried over what he's become, and I'm really excited about that in particular because it really sells the idea of what happens to this guy in this episode for sure. So if you're not familiar with this one, at least go watch it. I haven't watched it in a very long time, but I do remember this particular character's sort of traumatic experience quite well. And I think NECA, as usual, did a very good job of translating a cartoon design into a 3D figure, because this one looks, I mean, he looks like he jumped right out of the show. I say that a lot when it comes to this line, and I don't think I'm overusing it because they do a really good job on this line. But this guy in particular, I mean, he really does look like his TV counterpart, and I think they did a tremendous job making all of this both look good and be very, very functional at the same time. And then, of course, here is our size comparison for the two. So not only does it give you an idea of how big Ace and Mutagen Man are next to each other, you can see how big they are next to a turtle. So like I said, Mutagen Man is not by any means a big figure. He's a little bit beefier, but he's pretty much in line with the turtles. And Ace Duck is, about a head or so taller than our turtles, which kind of lines up pretty well. So you get an idea of what they look like right there alongside, I don't know, maybe the most important of the comparisons when it comes to the line. You got to know how they line up next to the turtles, right? So let's do something a little bit different. We'll switch up some properties, and we'll move the best turtle aside, and we will do a Power Ranger. So here is a Lightning Collection figure. So here is MMPR Black, to give you an idea of what they look like next to a 6-inch Hasbro figure. And then we will go back to NECA, and we'll do, here is the Defenders of the Earth Flash Gordon, to give you an idea of what they look like next to a normal NECA figure. So you can see that Ace is a little bit shorter, and then Mutagen Man is absolutely dwarfed. We'll move him aside, and we'll go with another 6-inch figure. So here is the new Boba Fett. Just to give you a better idea of a different figure in that similar scale. And then let's do an oddball, because it's Christmas time. Here is everybody's favorite Yukon Cornelius. Why not? And then for another, because there's always one around, here is a Mythic Legion Tibius from the recent All-Stars wave. So you get an idea of what they look like next to some 7-inch stuff, and then next to various 6-inch things, and then, of course, something more along the same lines as Mutagen Man when it comes to that Leonardo, to give you an idea of what they look like next to the turtles. Now, as far as accessories goes, these guys have a pretty solid spread. Unsurprisingly, right? There's a lot of stuff in this box. Some of it I just plain don't remember either, because I just don't. So let's run through them and see what they've got. We're going to do Ace's stuff first. We're going to start with this extra hands, because there's a lot, and there's like varying kinds of hands here. So to start with, in the box, you get a left trigger finger hand and this sort of right style pose hand. So you get the opposing trigger finger hand, but there's only one of these style pose hands. The other sets are a set of, gun pointing hands, so thumbs up with the index finger out. You get a set of those. You get a left thumbs up hand, and then you also get a set of fists. So he gets, 6 extra hands, total of 8, but 2 of them are unique, so it's not 4 complete sets. We get an extra head sculpt. So we get this sort of open mouth, slightly angry, furrowed brow kind of head sculpt, opposed to the gritting of the teeth. We get 2 guns. So you get this revolver, and then you get a pistol. Just gray, very cartoony, of course. That's sort of what we're going for here. We get the grenades, so the little egg grenades, egg bombs that he has. So there's 2 of those, and they fit on the holster on his back, on the belt. And then we get some stuff that, I get the reference because he's like a movie character, but I don't really remember what these are supposed to be for, if they are for anything. So you get a movie reel which actually does look really cool. I have no idea what I would ever do with this. And then for, the older folks out there, this is what we call a VHS cassette tape. So, if you've never seen one of these, now you have kids, but the older folks out there will know it actually does look really good. Like, I could see myself using this with other figures for whatever reason, but I don't know exactly why he has it. Obviously, I need to go back and rewatch this episode, but here we are. So he's got a lot of cool stuff. He does seem to include something for the diorama as well, which I don't have. So you get an Ace Duck poster, which does look really cool. It seems to be like a slightly better cardstock than usual too. So that's kind of neat. I don't know what I'm going to do with it because I don't do the dioramas, but that's kind of neat. I do like the idea behind that. And then for Mutagen Man, he kind of has, well, a lot of stuff too. So to start with, we've got more hands as usual. So he's got fists on him in the box. You get a right trigger finger hand. And then we get some other stuff as well. Like you get some gripping hands, a set of gripping hands, big gripping hands too. And then we get a left style pose hand, so kind of open palm. And then you also get another left hand, which isn't a trigger finger hand, but it's a less open gripping hand. So a couple instances in this set where things are more unique when it comes to hands. We get this canister, which I do not remember what it is for. It might be the stuff that like stabilizes him at the end. Brindex or Brindex or something like that. I don't remember. I could be wrong about that. I think that's what that stuff is called though. But of course this does look pretty good. Nice cartoony design. We get this monster of a gun, which I do not remember at all. So someone out there is going to tell me what it is. It's got a just wild design on it too. Looks really neat. I like the sculpt. Paintwork on it is tremendous when there's tons of different colors and finishes and textures all over it. So this is really cool. I'm assuming it's for Mutagen Man. Like it's listed for him in various descriptions that I can find. And then last but not least, he does get an alt head too. Alt brain. I mean, just look at this thing. The sculpt on this is tremendous. Tons of detail. All of that's, matter up there. And then this one is a angry head sculpt. So he's got the very worried one here and then the angry one. This is probably my preferred still, just because the idea of him being super concerned about his present situation definitely works for me. But this is a really good head sculpt too. And again, I like the idea of being able to make him super emotive based on which head you've got in there. So there is a lot of stuff in this box. Some things that I just plain don't really remember why they go with these figures. I mean, some of it makes sense, but I don't have a near encyclopedic knowledge of everything Turtles cartoon. So someone let me know what some of this stuff is. But otherwise, a lot of stuff in here, a lot of, as usual, deep cut references when it comes to Turtles, and just a really well fleshed out package overall. So yeah, overall, this is a very solid set. I'm not the biggest Ace Duck guy. Like, I really don't care about him all that much. He's never been even close to a favorite. Even in the vintage line, he wasn't anything I truly cared about. But he does look good. He looks like his TV counterpart, and that's really all I care about. He looks the part really well. Mutagen Man is the star of the show for the set for me. Even though I prefer the toy design, I love the cartoon design quite a bit, and I think NECA did a just bang-up job on this one. They come with a solid array of accessories, despite the fact that some of it just escapes my memory, but that's pretty much always the case with these. So it's always a great deal of stuff that you can spread around your Turtles display, and we've got two new fantastic looking figures to add to the collection. So that's going to do it for this look at the NECA Toys Ace Duck and Mutagen Man. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.